Welcome, friends, to today's conversation on navigating relationships with wisdom and purpose. I'm delighted you've tuned in, whether you're driving down city streets, enjoying a morning coffee, or simply taking a moment of calm in your day. Relationships are at the heart of our human experience, the connections we forge, the trust we build, the love we share. Yet, paradoxically, they can also become arenas of frustration when unseen mistakes sabotage our efforts to attract and maintain meaningful connections. As older men, many of us carry life experiences that shape our perspective. We've achieved milestones, careers, families, personal growth, but with age comes the risk of habits and blind spots that can dim our natural charisma. What if, through the lens of Stoic philosophy, we could identify 7 subtle and, surprisingly, common mistakes that weaken our attraction, and more importantly, learn how to correct them? Today, we'll draw upon the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, weaving their timeless insights with real-life anecdotes to shine light on practical, actionable steps. By the end of this journey, you'll be equipped not only to recognize these pitfalls, but to transform them into opportunities for deeper connection and inner strength. 1. Prioritizing image over substance. In our modern age, it's all too easy to become enamored with the mirror image we present to the world, selecting the perfect outfit, curating a social media presence, even rehearsing our smiles in the reflection before we step out the door. Yet Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up, if thou wilt always look there." Meditations, Book 7. He urges us to recognize that what lies beneath the surface, the wellspring of character, integrity, and compassion, is the foundation of genuine attraction, unshaken by shifting trends or fleeting judgments. When we prioritize our external image above cultivating inner virtue, we risk building a house of cards, dazzling for a moment, but destined to collapse at the first gust of disappointment or misunderstanding. Seneca, too, warns in his letters against the folly of vanity. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. How many hours have we poured into chasing the next status symbol, believing it will fill a void that only purpose and authenticity can satisfy? Think for a moment. When was the last time someone confided in you because of your expensive watch? And when was the last time they felt drawn to you because you listened without judgment or offered solace in a moment of vulnerability? True wealth, Stoicism teaches, resides not in possessions, but in the mastery of self. Pause, listener, and ask yourself, what stories do I tell about who I am? And are those narratives rooted in substance or surface applause? Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become a beacon of wisdom, challenged us to disentangle our value from external trappings. He declared, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Discourses, Book 2, translated to our context. This means that confidence born of inner resilience, a calm response to setbacks, a generous spirit in success speaks far more loudly than designer labels or polished bravado. Consider a simple scenario at a gathering. 2 men arrive. One wears a tailored suit, speaks of his possessions, and waits for the spotlight. The other enters humbly, offers a warm greeting, inquires sincerely about others' lives, and listens with focused attention. Which one leaves a lasting impression? The latter, because people remember how they felt seen, heard, valued far more than how someone looked. This is the heart of Stoic appeal, the magnetism of genuine care and dignity. Allow your mind to dwell on your encounters. Have you ever been drawn to someone not because of their resume, but because of their radiant generosity of spirit? Have you ever left a conversation more buoyed by another's compassion than by their accomplishments? These experiences are proof that substance reigns supreme. In the next moments, as you prepare for your day, before you tie your tie or smooth your hair, turn inward. Reflect on a virtue you wish to embody today: patience when listening, humility when speaking, courage when admitting a mistake. Carry that intention as faithfully as you would any accessory, for in nurturing the garden of your character, you cultivate an attraction that no season can wither, and in doing so, you align with the Stoic truth that the most beautiful image you can project is the unwavering strength of a well-examined soul. to overanalyzing every word and gesture. In the hustle of a conversation, whether on a first date, a business meeting, or a chance encounter in a cafe, it is all too easy to slip into the habit of dissecting every glance, every inflection, every half smile, as though each were a cryptic message demanding exhaustive decoding. Yet Marcus Aurelius counsels us to resist this mental overreach. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Meditations, Book 4. When we obsess over the signals we receive, we yield our power to interpretations that often have little to do with reality, and much more to do with our insecurities. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many conversations have been hijacked by a racing imagination, by the fear that a hesitant means disinterest, or that a glance at the phone signals boredom? Seneca reminds us that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. On anger, Book I. Our minds, gifted as they are, can become our tormentors, constructing dramas out of neutral events and erecting barriers where there should be bridges. Rather than responding to the person before us, we respond to an internal screenplay, one bloated with anxieties that cloud our presence and dim our true warmth. Epictetus offers a guiding principle: don't worry about what you can't control, focus on what you can control. Discourses, Book I. The words and gestures of others fall firmly outside our sphere of governance. What lies within our gift is our attention and curiosity. In practice, this means shifting from interpretation to inquiry, instead of assuming you've detected impatience. In a pause, you might simply ask, "You seem to be thinking deeply. What's on your mind?" This gentle invitation does three things. It grounds you in the present moment, it honors the other person's experience, and it transforms potentially awkward silence into an authentic exchange. Imagine again that moment in conversation when you've caught yourself rehearsing possible replies while the other person speaks, murmuring yes, no, or that's interesting to yourself, rather than truly listening. How might the dynamic shift if you let go of your mental script and allowed genuine curiosity to flourish? What doors might open when you give another person the gift of your full, undivided attention on an emotional level? Releasing overanalysis can feel risky. After all, our interpretations, however flawed, give us a sense of control. Yet the Stoics teach that true tranquility emerges not from controlling external events, but from mastering our responses. As Marcus Aurelius writes, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Meditations, Book 8. By choosing to suspend judgments and remain open, we cultivate an inner calm that is itself magnetic. So the next time your mind tugs you towards speculation, why did they look away? Or did they mean that compliment? Pause and breathe. Gently redirect your focus to the richness of the present, the tone of voice, the unspoken subtext of shared laughter, the warmth of a genuine smile. Let your guiding question be not "what does this signal mean?" but "how can I show I am fully here, fully present?" In that simple reorientation, you reclaim your power, banish needless anxieties, and allow the natural flow of connection to emerge unforced, unhurried, and profoundly real. 3. Confusing confidence with arrogance. In our quest to embody genuine self-assurance, we sometimes stray into the territory of arrogance, a trap that erodes trust and stifles connection. Marcus Aurelius offers a clarifying beacon when he writes, in his Meditations, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, and truth never harmed anyone." The simple yet profound declaration highlights the Stoic ideal of confidence rooted in openness rather than obstinacy. True confidence welcomes correction, arrogance barricades it. Pause for a moment, listener, and reflect. When was the last time someone gently challenged your opinion, and you felt grateful rather than defensive? If defensiveness flared, it may signal that your self-assurance is partially propped up by pride and inner voice that insists you must always be right. But Seneca reminds us, it is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. This unconquerable mind thrives on humility, acknowledging that even after decades of experience there is always more to learn. When we replace the need to dominate a conversation to understand, we demonstrate a serenity that's far more compelling than any boastful anecdote. Arrogance often manifests quietly, interrupting to prove a point, slipping congratulatory remarks about our achievements, or steering discussions back to familiar victories. These subtle behaviors whisper, "Look at me." Yet Stoicism urges the opposite. Epictetus instructs, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, define your character by your values: integrity, generosity, curiosity, and then let your actions flow from that inner blueprint. When you step into a room guided by these principles, you'll naturally project an unshakable calm that invites rather than repels. Imagine attending a gathering where two men share their recent successes. One lists accomplishments with the cadence of a victory march, eyes constantly scanning the crowd for applause. The other recounts his journey through the lens of lessons learned, acknowledging mentors, setbacks, and unexpected joys. Who do you feel drawn to approach? The second, without question, because vulnerability fused with quiet confidence resonates more deeply than any litany of triumphs. Consider your conversations. Do you find yourself rehearsing lines to impress, or do you lean into silence when you lack the perfect response, trusting that authenticity suffices? Remember that people remember how you made them feel valued, understood, inspired long after the specifics of your achievements fade. Confidence rooted in humility communicates a message far richer than any resume ever could. So I invite you now to ask, what is my motive when I speak of my successes? Is it to inform and uplift, or to inflate my sense of worth? If the latter, pause and recalibrate. Offer your stories as invitations to shared humanity, not as trophies on display. Listen with genuine interest when others speak of their triumphs. Celebrate them without comparison. In practicing this inner vigilance, you will witness a transformation. Your presence becomes a sanctuary where others feel welcome to share, to laugh, to dream. And in that sacred space, attraction springs naturally, not from the arrogant echo of self-praise, but from the steady heartbeat of a confident soul, secure in itself and generous in spirit. This, dear listener, is the Stoic path to confidence, unmarred by arrogance, a life lived in harmony with reason, empathy, and unwavering grace. 4. Neglecting emotional availability. In the quiet spaces between words, we often hide our true selves, masking hopes with half smiles, sheltering fears behind stoic silence. Yet, as Marcus Aurelius gently reminds us in his Meditations, don't hanker after what you don't have. Instead, fix your attentions on the finest and best that you have, and imagine how much you would long for these if they weren't in your possession. Here, he speaks not only of material blessings, but of the raw, beautiful spectrum of our emotions. To turn away from our feelings is to deny a source of authentic connection, both with ourselves and with others. Think for a moment. When someone asks, "How are you doing?" do you share your small victories and private struggles, or do you default to the well-rehearsed "I'm fine"? Seneca argues that no man can long continue to deceive himself. He will sooner or later discover the truth. Emotional unavailability is a self-deception that eventually erodes the bridges we seek to build. By hiding our vulnerability, we inadvertently signal that our heart is off-limits, leaving those who wish to draw near feeling shut out. Epictetus offers firm guidance on this matter. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. If we judge our emotions as weaknesses, something unworthy of display, we condemn ourselves to a life of quiet desperation. Yet, emotions are neither enemies nor masters. They are messengers, offering insight into what we value and fear. When we acknowledge their presence without being overwhelmed, we practice the very self-mastery that Stoicism champions. Imagine a scenario. You're speaking with a close friend who confesses uncertainty about a major life decision. You nod politely, but internally you're rehearsing your advice or thinking of the next topic. Have you ever wondered what shifts when, instead, you let your empathy surface, saying, "I sense this is weighing on you. I've felt that turmoil." 2. Can you tell me more? That simple act of emotional availability invites reciprocity, forging intimacy rooted in shared humanity. Pause now and ask yourself, what prevents me from showing my emotional colors? Is it fear of judgment, the risk of rejection, or a habit of self-protection? Remember that Stoic courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act rightly despite it. Marcus Aurelius writes, If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. By reframing vulnerability as an expression of strength rather than a liability, we reshape our inner narrative and our relationships benefit in turn. Practically speaking, emotional availability can begin with small steps, sharing a moment of gratitude, admitting uncertainty when asked for an opinion, or acknowledging how someone's kindness made you feel. Over time, these disclosures build trust. They demonstrate that your interior life is not a fortress, but a welcoming home where others can visit and feel at ease. In neglecting our emotional availability, we miss the opportunity to connect through compassion and authenticity. But in inviting others into our emotional landscape, while maintaining the Stoic discipline to observe feelings without being swept away, we become beacons of genuine presence. And that presence, dear listener, is one of the most profound forms of attraction, the magnetism of an open heart guided by a calm, resolute mind. 5. Relying on old scripts instead of listening. In our lives, conversations can slip into familiar patterns, Puritan scripts we recite rather than genuine exchanges we engage in. We fall back on stock phrases, well-trodden anecdotes, or rehearsed advice, believing it will ease the flow. Yet, as Marcus Aurelius counsels in his Meditations, receive without pride, let go without attachment. If we cling to our talking points, we remain attached to our perspective and blind to the unique message the other person brings. True connection requires us to release prideful scripts and open ourselves fully to the present moment. Consider how often we herald our wisdom. When I was your age, or in my experience. The best approach is before truly hearing what lies in the other's heart. Seneca warns against this self-centeredness. Every man can transform the world from one of monotony and drabness to one of excitement and adventure. But that transformation begins not in lecture, but in listening. When we replace rote responses with attentive silence, we invite the color and texture of another's experience to animate our dialogue. Pause and ask yourself, listener, when I enter a conversation, do I carry a mental checklist of points to make, or do I arrive with curiosity and readiness to learn? Epictetus reminds us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This teaching goes beyond mere etiquette. It's an inner discipline of Stoic mindfulness. By grounding primacy to listening, we acknowledge that every person we meet holds a fragment of wisdom and that, by holding space for their voice, we expand our understanding. Imagine a moment of silence after someone's heartfelt confession, say, of a recent loss or a long-held dream. In that pause, instead of hastily filling the gap with your anecdote, what if you simply rested in empathy? Thank you for sharing that with me. I can't begin to imagine how that felt. Would you like to tell me more? Such invitations validate vulnerability and transform conversations from monologues into shared explorations. Emotion surges in these unguarded spaces, forging bonds that scripts can never replicate. Reflect, too, on your emotional state when you're listening. Are you relaxed and present, or tense and planning your next remark? The Stoics teach that inner calm arises from focusing on what we control, our attention rather than external noise. When you exhale scripted certainty and inhale genuine curiosity, your presence becomes a balm. People will sense the difference between a performance and a partnership. To apply this in daily life, try a simple practice. Before responding, count silently to 3. Let your mind settle, and then speak only after you've truly absorbed what was said. Notice how your words shift from predictable to resonant. Over time, you'll find that the art of listening deepens your empathy, enriches your insights, and fuels a magnetic authenticity. In relinquishing old scripts, you reclaim the spontaneity and depth that make human encounters vibrant. You shift from actor to co-author of each dialogue, creating stories brimming with shared meaning. And in that sacred act of listening, dear listener, you discover not only the soul of another, but the boundless reserves of compassion and wisdom within yourself. 6. Avoiding difficult conversations. In the quiet corners of our relationships, avoiding difficult conversations can feel like the path of least resistance. Yet it's truly the most perilous. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, warns us, if it is not right, Do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. By sidestepping honesty, we ourselves sow the seeds of discord. Scheming around painful truths may grant short-term comfort, but over time, it silently erodes trust, creating a chasm that even the warmest smile cannot bridge. Why do we shy away from hard talks? Seneca offers insight when he writes, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." Difficult conversations stir discomfort because they expose vulnerability, our fear of causing hurt or of feeling awkward, in uncharted emotional territory. Yet Stoicism teaches that growth blossoms from facing discomfort head-on. When we avoid speaking about unmet expectations, resentment takes root. When we fail to set boundaries, we lose our sense of self. Each unspoken word becomes a weight we carry, and under its burden, connections weaken. Pause with me now, listener, and reflect. What conversation have you postponed? Fearing tension or rejection? Is it that unresolved disagreement with a close friend or the hesitation to ask a partner for the support you need? This very avoidance speaks volumes, yet not the words we wish to convey, but the silent narrative of fear. Epictetus reminds us it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Our reaction silence wrapped in anxiety shapes the health of our relationships more profoundly than any event itself. Imagine two colleagues who disagree on a project's direction. Instead of voicing their concerns, they exchange curt emails and avoid shared spaces. Weeks pass, and an undercurrent of tension stains their interactions. Contrast that with a Stoic approach. One says, "I sense we have differing views. Can we sit down and clarify our priorities?" By speaking plainly, we invite collaboration rather than conflict. We transform potential estrangement into an opportunity for mutual understanding. What does emotional courage look like in practice? Start by framing your intention. I care about our relationship, and I want to ensure we're both heard. Use I statements to own your feelings. I felt disappointed when plans changed suddenly, rather than casting blame. This Stoic practice of self-examination and measured expression aligns with Seneca's call to associate with people who are likely to improve you. Difficult conversations, when handled with respect, can indeed elevate both parties. As you prepare for your next challenging dialogue, breathe deeply and recall Marcus Aurelius's advice. If someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. Approach the talk with an open heart, ready to listen as much as to speak. Recognize that the goal is not to win, but to strengthen the bond by clearing misunderstandings and affirming mutual respect. By refusing avoidance and embracing honest, courageous communication, you embody the Stoic ideal of living in harmony with reason and benevolence. In doing so, you light a path toward relationships marked by trust, depth, and shared resilience, one candid conversation at a time. 7. Failing to cultivate self-rule before ruling in relationships. In the grand tapestry of our interactions, we often aspire to guide and nurture our relationships, whether as partners, friends, or mentors, yet neglect the most fundamental realm requiring our leadership, our own inner lives. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." How then can we hope to foster stability, trust, and harmony with others if we have not first mastered the tempest within? Stoicism teaches that self-rule governance of one's impulses, judgments, and desires is the bedrock of genuine influence. Seneca writes in his letters, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom here is not license to indulge every whim, but the serene autonomy achieved when we respond to challenges with reason, rather than reacting to emotions unexamined. Reflect. Listener, have you ever found yourself snapping at a loved one because work stress clouded your patience? That lapse, however small, reveals the cost of forfeiting self-rule. Consider Epictetus's powerful declaration in his discourses. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This two-step process underscores the importance of clarity in values before action, of setting an inner compass before setting sail. In relationships, when we lack such direction, our actions wobble. Inconsistency breeds confusion, and confusion breeds conflict. A partner who oscillates between warm attentiveness and abrupt withdrawal leaves the other. Wondering which version of you will appear today? Ask yourself now, what impulses or habits undermine my equilibrium? Is it a tendency to withdraw into silence when under pressure? A rush to judgment before hearing another's perspective? Identifying these patterns is the first act of self-rule. Next comes the practice of mindfulness, establishing daily rituals that fortify your inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reflecting on his purpose and his role. You might likewise dedicate a few moments to journaling, noting triggers that spurred irritation, success in responding with calm, and lessons to carry forward. Emotional regulation is central to self-rule. Epictetus teaches that it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. By interrogating the beliefs fueling our reactions, why did that comment upset me? We uncover deeper fears or expectations, and through this recognition, we regain choice. When you practice this, you'll notice a shift. You're no longer tossed by every slight or surprise, but stand firm, a harbor in storms both small and great. Self-mastery also involves aligning desires with nature's broader rhythm, accepting what we cannot control, others' actions, unforeseen events, while focusing energy on our judgments and efforts. As Seneca observes, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By grounding yourself in the present and accepting external realities, your presence becomes a calm beacon. In relationships, this translates to being a reliable partner, unshaken by petty provocations and ready to offer support when tides rise. Finally, embodying self-rule radiates an invitation for others to do the same. When you model calm deliberation, pausing before replying, acknowledging mistakes with grace, and celebrating the virtues of others, you cultivate a shared space of mutual respect and inner strength. Those around you will respond not out of obligation, but out of admiration for the thoughtful steadiness you bring. So, dear listener, commit today to mastering your inner domain. Set intentions each morning. Practice mindful reflection throughout the day, and greet challenges as opportunities to exercise your self-rule. In nurturing your character, you lay the foundation for relationships that flourish in clarity, trust, and profound connection. For as the Stoics teach, the truest leadership begins within. Only then can we genuinely guide, uplift, and harmonize with those we hold dear. We've explored 7 attraction-killing mistakes: prioritizing image over substance, overanalyzing gestures, confusing confidence with arrogance, neglecting emotional availability, relying on old scripts, avoiding difficult conversations, and failing to cultivate self-rule. Each of these pitfalls can be transformed through Stoic practice into opportunities for growth and authentic connection. Ask yourself today, which mistake resonates most with my behavior? Begin with small, intentional shifts. Speak less about accomplishments and more about questions. Lean into vulnerability when it feels safe. Approach conflict as a chance to practice courage. In doing so, you align with the Stoic ideal of living. By nature, our rational, social selves. Thank you for sharing this time with me. If these reflections resonated, I invite you to continue the journey. Share this episode with a friend who might benefit. Leave a comment below with your own experiences, and subscribe to stay connected. May you walk forward with clarity in your relationships, firmness in your character, and an unwavering calm in the face of life's unpredictable tides. Until next time, be well, and remember, the greatest attraction you offer the world is the integrity of your inner life.